Hi, it's Carl again. Just another video on how to deal with sort of hot, dry conditions. It's now around 7 o'clock in the morning. I've no idea why I'm up this early, but I just wanted to have a look at the shade down the side of my house. So the house is actually, that's the sort of south. So this wall faces east, and as you can see, because of the houses, etc., over here, the sun will come round. At the moment there is full shade, and sun follows that direction, and obviously as it rises it will get above that gap over there, but eventually be shaded by that wall. So I'm thinking that really this is only going to get, I don't know, about 3 hours of sunlight, something like that, in the morning, and that's about all. The rest of the day, obviously, the sun will go behind that wall. It's going to be fairly sheltered lower down by this fence as well. And so therefore the sunlight on this tree is incredibly limited. So again, picking the right location for the tree is really important. And I think in this case, this seems to really like being here. There is a little bit of, the leaves are going a little bit white, I suppose. But it's amazing how we just sort of, I would say, 3 hours a day of sunlight, that otherwise this tree is really, really happy. It's with things like hostas, it's with these shrubs that love shade as well, and to me is doing extremely well. So thanks for those people who left comments about their orange dreams. They're common, they're available, and I think they're, of the really common available plants, they're the easiest ones to have a problem with, but you can't give them enough shade almost. So I wouldn't be afraid of kind of doing that. So going back to the main theme here, one way to give plants shade is obviously to construct something here. Many of you have probably seen in my previous videos. Actually, I had to, because this is south-facing, Constructor some sort of shade, because otherwise many of these plants would suffer really quite badly. So of the trees that I've got, I would say 25% of them are the most sun tolerant, and the vast majority need either morning or afternoon shade. So just panning around the garden, you've got these against the back wall, so they're sort of fairly shaded, but they are fairly sun tolerant actually, because the sun will get quite high and hit them. And then this is a really key wall for me as well, because that's the west behind it, so they're going to get the classic morning sun, and then they're going to get some shade from there later. I'd also say that, just quickly looking around here, this is the south-facing wall, but at least with the conservatory there and the house and fence there is a little bit of protection first thing in the morning and last thing at night, sort of thing. So they indeed do get some protection as well. So what else can we do to mitigate the effects of high sun levels? Obviously, if we just come down here, planting them in the shade created by other trees is always an option, really. So you might be able to put a little one in amongst them. So there's like for example, this little tailor down here, which is incredibly pinky looking, beautiful little tree, but I've just put him in the position underneath the katsura here, because that gets a massive amount of shade, to be honest with you, and does all the better for it, so to speak. I think with the sunlight as well, you can't beat if they're in pots, just because I'm monitoring what's going on here, because it's hard to be precise. I mean, they're out here every day, all day sort of scenario, so just keeping an eye on the leaves, seeing what's happened. This katsura, for example, is doing okay. It's quite a mature tree, but the first signs of leaf damage is kind of where they're going whitish, a lighter. So if I could put this in even more shade, I would. I'm probably running out of it a little bit, but again, because the tree's fairly well established, there's plenty of leaves inside there in good shade, that are going to help sustain it. I just wanted to pop over here back to where I was talking about in another video I've recently done, and that was more sort of about the effects of drying wind. And here we can see the Jordan I was talking about before. So this tree, absolutely lovely. I've moved it because you've got this sort of slightly paling, whiting effect, which is quite lovely actually. But I know from last year, if I'd have left it in any degree of sun, that will just get worse. So you can see how lush it is down here, absolutely fine. I think there's a temptation of thinking plants need a lot of sun, and these absolutely don't really. If they're in shade all day, that's kind of fine. But because they are big broad leaves, direct sunlight will hit them and cause a problem in one day almost, if it's a really, really strong sunny day. So shade is really beneficial. That is an orange dream. Again, I've tucked it down there well out of the way, and as you can see, it's well sheltered right at the back. Gets virtually no direct sun at all really, but it's all the better for it. So the little new growth at the ends is doing okay. It's relatively undamaged, and believe it or not, this tree is about the same age as the one outside. So again, because the one outside is in the ground, it's got unlimited resources. The ground outside is quite clay actually, or very clay, but not so much that it sort of pulls water on top. It does get absorbed, but then it hangs onto it. So what I find is if I put a tree in the ground, it's very it's fine as long as it needs a lot of water in a sense. If it's a more established tree, then it will sort of dry itself out, I think, and that's really helpful. This dissectum here, again, quite a bit of direct sunlight as it comes over the fence, because my sort of shade only comes to here. But this tends to adapt, it tends to go red. So I think where you've got trees that tend to do that, they just seem to be able to cope quite well really. Another note with direct sunlight is that if you don't give trees enough sunlight, they will be affected by, if they're red acers, by not staying red, they'll go green. So I've got this lovely little hubs willow here, which is great, but I need to watch that because it hardly gets any sun, and I fear it might go slightly green actually as it produces more chlorophyll. So I really like that one there, but I'm being a bit naughty. I might have to put that where it wants to be, as I often say, in a bit more direct sunlight to keep that lovely red colour. So that's another angle to it. What else can we do? Because, you know, what measures can we take? I've got my cloth here, as I mentioned in the previous video. So this is a bit of a win-win. It's a bit unsightly, but it's okay for emergencies only. So down she comes, and as I said in the video on wind, that's going to stop the wind blowing. Well, it won't stop it blowing through it, but it will slow it down. But obviously, if I need extra shade, if it gets really crazy hot, that'll be beneficial too. But I suppose it's all about picking the right measures without retaining, you know, obviously you want to retain the nice look of your trees and enjoy them, but at the end of the day, preserving them is important. And again, stuff like this Ukigumo here, you really can't give it enough shade, to be honest with you. So, and here, Amiga Shadar, that's fine, but again, super shady areas. So if we can put things in shade, great. If you can create some shade, that's a great option too, if we can, or indeed use one trees to shade others. So again, another one just buried in there. I've got some little seedlings actually here. Yes, I'm actually growing some seedlings because I was given them, so why not having a little go with those? And they need a lot of sort of shade and support really. Wilson's Pink Dwarf, again coming on very slow to start this year, but plenty of shade and it's starting to come through. So I hope that's helpful. I did do this video after people had posted, so it's always nice if people have got problems and issues, we can have a look at those and try and help a little bit, or lovely to see people share information amongst themselves as well. So I think it's time for a morning coffee. As you can see, the sun's just coming over, and again, a last tip, I just really think about getting out in the garden quite early, having a look where the sun is. Sometimes it's hard to appreciate perhaps what's happening throughout the day, and if we can change things, then change it up, and it can make a world of difference. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that, and see you soon. Oh, of course, do like and subscribe if you'd like more content, and there's a little icon bell, I think, as well to help with that. Take care, and we'll see you soon.